This signal right here confirmed, which is something we were talking about yesterday to look out for if we were going to drop. But remember, we said to watch out because that daily expected move might be important, and we actually could have another move higher even if this does play out. And this is why it's so important to watch the portion of the video about volatility, and that comes at the end of the video. But I'm going to show you guys it right now to show you guys what I was talking about. We talked about it again this morning. Volatility, yes, we did see a pop. We were talking about this last night in our video saying volatility could pop here because we're getting right at that 50, but we do not have reversal signals down here. We do not have the signals on volatility and on the SPY at the same time going in the opposite direction, obviously. So this is why I was saying be ready. If this volatility turns down on the 30-minute, it even gave you a small divergence here on the 15-minute. You can see flatness there for the MACD and downward for the RSI on the 30-minute here, but it gave you the divergence in a shorter time frame to watch out for, which said, hey, this can cross down. We did not have the signals at the same time, so we're going to want to see us create these signals at the same time. Volatility and the SPY need to see the same thing in order to really say this can be a major topping move. Now, to just start off with the SPY, let's just hop right into it because we're already talking about it. Well, the SPY here, we talked about watch out for that daily expected move. We went down to it. We crossed through it for a little bit, but the Qs did not really get past it. So tomorrow's daily expected move, we do have 586.80 to the upside and 580.46 to the downside. So that's going to be key. Seeing if this 30-minute MACD can turn up. That would be turning up into what positive territory? If we bump our head up here, though, watch out if we start to reject. Now, something that could be taking place here is, and we're going to talk about this further as we get into volatility, are we going to make a small 2-hour signal here that then can show up on the VIX at the same time? That's something that I'm playing with at this moment. But the first thing we need to watch for is if that 30-minute rejects, we can see some kind of fake out. If we're going to cross up and see something crazy, maybe with some good earnings or something like that, well, then this 2-hour will be able to project higher. We have to watch out if that gives us weakness because we've held divergences throughout this pretty well. So that is what we want to pay attention to. But it is key for you guys to start to watch the portion of the video that talks about volatility, because everything that we say with the SPY is true, right? Everything we say about it, with how it would break down, how it's going to break down, how this is going to confirm, how this 30-minute is going to confirm down, and then that's your signal you need to watch for, because that means with some bad news, bad things can happen. But we didn't have the signal at the same time on volatility, and no bad news really showed up. So that's what we need to pay attention to. The fact that this is continuing the bullish trend means we're most likely going to make a move higher. If that changes, we will be live tomorrow morning to watch it with you. Thank you so much if you are subscribed to the channel. Let's get into the Qs. Now that intro turned into just some analysis, so I was just trying to get it across that it's very good to pay attention to even some individual stocks like NVIDIA. We said this during the live video. I would at least be paying attention to SPY, Qs, NVIDIA, Apple, and I'd have to say volatility. Now, as we can notice here, 499.45 for the Qs to the upside for tomorrow's daily expected move, and the downside move is going to be 491.39. Going to be some decent support in there, but it really looks like we're kind of on this little shelf and we're trying to boom up, and you saw that cross up at the end of the day. So the most likely thing for tomorrow is to go up towards a daily expected move. As it looks right now, the 2-hour has curled up. We did not make, this would be a massive thing if this made the lower high here and it tried to curl down. We just didn't get enough of that to push through. Notice we hit that daily expected move. Actually, I believe we came a little bit above it, right? We came a little bit above it. We're hitting yesterday. So tomorrow's downward expected move is down at these lows. We'll see if that 30-minute can turn back around at some point. But right now, everything is looking like we need the next move higher. So where would this overall get to? Well, we can get as high as 503.93, right? The weekly expected move. We need to pay attention to that. What we're looking for here is another point of divergence. You've held divergence on this RSI all the way across. So we would hope that this holds the entire time, right? We can see that this is all the way across this thing. And so we need to pay attention if we're going to get another point of that. And that could easily be right here, right? It doesn't have to go to the weekly expected move. We just want to see if there's weakness in this move at any time and then see if that is rolling over. We are building liquidity. We are building a trap. We've said that for a while. We are building a weekly trap. You are seeing in front of you one of the biggest traps you've probably will ever see in your entire life. And that's going to make sense when we get to the dollar, right? You have to watch those portions of the dollar. You have to watch those portions of volatility, because that will give you more hints of what's to come tomorrow, and you will be ready for it. So this upward move is not surprising to me at all, because we did not have the same signals on volatility as we did on the SPY with those reversal signals, and we mentioned it multiple times. Thank you to the people who are out there paying attention and watching the entire video. Not to hate on anyone that's not. I understand time is valuable, and that's why I'm trying to get through this very, very quickly so you can notice those things. And I pointed out that you need to see volatility signals at the same time. Those good basing out signals with those kind of we need to come down signals on the opposite side from the SPY. Now, weirdly enough, for tomorrow, Apple is still holding this divergence point. You can see that right here. We're holding divergence all the way across this on the MACD and on the RSI. Are we going to violate all of that tomorrow? That will be something very interesting, because this still looks kind of like an island to me, and I'm just hoping we don't see some kind of gap down from Apple. Not saying that has to happen, but I want to pay attention any time that that 2 hour does curl down. And something about the 30-minute you just want to notice here is you do have this divergence showing up now on the 30-minute. So not only did you have it on the 2 hour, you have it on the 30-minute, which means in this area, it would serve Apple well to at least pull down and then curl back up, because then you would have that good healthy structure to head higher, get this MACD down by the center line and curl up into positive territory. And we can't really talk about reversal signals, but if this crosses down the 2 hour and we see something sudden, that's going to be a little bit bad there for Apple. Tesla actually did see a move to go test these lows again, and you did form a little bit of divergence on the 30-minute. It's still wonky, so hourly is going to have to turn up for us to see this go back up into our zone. We do have weekly expected moves over on Patreon for you. For Tesla, it has some big moves, and earnings is right around the corner, right? Earnings comes out, what, Thursday? Okay, so I would really be paying attention. It seems Tesla has the ability to get some rip around moves, even though we've seen some very strange behavior that Tesla does not do very often. You'll notice if it is moving sideways, look how it moves sideways more in a sporadic way. This is, yeah, you're getting a couple of wicks out, but you're holding the bars very tight here. So a big move is most likely coming for Tesla. If the hourly turns up, I think we go up to this zone. But watch out for earnings, because that's going to be a 50-50 flip for Tesla. There is still not much that you can talk about when it comes to Tesla, besides the fact that if the 2 hour crossed down, that would be a signal for this thing to head down over time. Amazon, one key thing to notice about this 2 hour chart is the fact that you do have divergence points here. You do have them, and they tried to confirm today, but they did not confirm. So you are close to the center line with a divergence, but they did not confirm. And that's going to be a huge deal, because that 30-minute was able to turn back up, meaning this is not crossing down. The timing must be off, and we can now make another move up. And maybe this is just a big cup and handle to actually head higher. But we want to watch out if a little divergence forms tomorrow. But for the most part, we want to say, hey, this is looking okay, right? We're turning up, we're in positive territory. If we get a green bar in the morning, we can continue this positive trend for Amazon. We did what we were talking about, where you come up into the, you break out of an important zone, you dip back down into it, and then you can see another move to the upside. This is what we were looking for the bullishness to stay intact for Amazon. If you go back and look at yesterday's video when we talked about Amazon, we said, if this 30-minute comes down, I think it's good because it's a handle, and if that's able to curl up, that'd be fantastic, as long as it does not cross over the 2 hour. And then I'm just going to flip over to the 2 hour one more time and notice this, as long as it does not cross over the 2 hour. Did that 2 hour cross over? No, so we need to pay attention to some bullishness for Amazon until we see some more price action tomorrow, and then maybe we can talk about something else. But for now, bullishness is the answer for the time being. NVIDIA making a massive move, right? Confirming divergence here, but making another move higher, right? It's always good to pay attention to both sides, and that's why we talked about in yesterday's video how the 30-minute, now this did cross over the 2 hour, so this one was a little tricky, but this still held very well on that crossover. That was not some kind of breaking of the low, breaking of the 5, anything like that, right? This blue line. This was a cup that had a handle, and then you crossed up into what? Positive territory. So that's exactly what we were looking for yesterday. We said, if we're going to make that handle, then we want to curl up into positive territory for the 30-minute. That's exactly what happened. You are approaching a weekly expected move very fast. So if we get outside of that tomorrow, we might be talking about something else. We might be talking about the fact that this 2 hour had divergence. It confirmed it once here, right? It confirmed it for a second. Not the best confirmation, but it still did. But it's still above the 5, and therefore, if you can turn up on a 30-minute, you're going to get rid of that, and that's exactly what ended up happening here. So we turned up on the 2 hour, and now we're heading higher, but what's happening? Well, we're still holding that divergence point. So even if we go to a weekly expected move, which is above you just a little bit from right here, you're almost to it right now. Well, watch out if that 2 hour actually does rotate down, because that will be a point of divergence. You will still be far away from the center line. So you have to, once again, pay attention if that thing's going to curl back up. This is building to be one of the biggest traps I've ever seen. And if you don't believe it's a trap, I highly encourage you go look at the dollar, right? Go look at the dollar. It is screaming to the upside. I think insiders are selling at the fastest rate we've ever seen. Some big people are flying into cash faster than anyone has ever seen. And cash is the #1 safety asset, because everyone around the world uses US dollars for a lot of things, okay? You use the US dollar every single day. So pay attention if these things start to roll over and these things start to confirm for NVIDIA, because this is one of the only stocks keeping the market really at all-time highs right now, is NVIDIA and Apple. So I'd highly encourage paying attention to those two. AMD finally gave us that blip, okay? Finally gave us that blip down to give us that divergence point, and you notice what? It curled up by positive territory, which means now the 2 hour can start to turn up. Remember, if we were talking about this video yesterday, we were talking about maybe if you wanted to create good structure to head up, you'd react all the way up to something right here, right? You'd react all the way up to this level, create that cup, get that handle, use 160.83 to remain bullish over time. And all of that still could happen. But we want to pay attention still. If this 30-minute does rotate down, we have to react. We are taking back the 5 and crossing over a 2 hour though. So since the 2 hour has crossed now, we can see that move. Maybe that move takes us to 160.83. Maybe it takes us all the way up to 163. But for the time being, this is very negative. So to make a lower high is pretty likely in this area for AMD. So I'd be cautious with these upward moves, right? It doesn't mean you can't take moves. It just means be cautious, meaning manage the trade, right? Do what we talk about in the courses that are 90% off through November, right? Look at your trades, actively trading, right? Actively watching your trades, actively managing them, actively saying, oh, I have a 2 hour trade. This 30-minute is curling back up. I might have the timing off, and then making a decision and then seeing if that can turn back down with some kind of triple divergence or something like that. That's what you have to do in this environment when you're seeing one of the craziest tops I think I've ever seen at this moment. So pay attention to this for AMD, because this could be some kind of great move, hits a weekly expected move and just starts to turn down. Earnings will be pretty insane this year, is my opinion. I say this year, but I mean this time around, and we're looking for if Meta could form something to help us out. Remember, we talked about in the video yesterday, this is why it's good to watch the entire video, because Meta, we were talking about, hey, if Meta can make a divergence right here, we need to pay attention, because maybe Meta's going to be the stock that gives us a hint. This is another stock that is way at all-time highs. This is another stock that is helping hold the stock market at all-time highs right now, but NVIDIA and Apple are continuously hitting those higher levels. Meta backed off for a little bit, but I think this was the important one to watch for the day. The 2 hour here, can it curl up? And this is what we were talking about in the video last night. We were saying if it's going to curl up, we might see some kind of divergence here. We see a divergence here, right? We see that very clear on the MACD, very not really there on the RSI, a little bit down for the RSI. So this could just be a 2 hour bounce, right? A 2 hour bounce. We need to get back that 5, take back the 5 or something like that. If we're going to head higher, you can kind of see how we would react to this type of level of 582-ish, turn back down, and then we would see some good structure to head to the upside. But for now, we need to pay attention if this is going to give us some kind of lower high. And the reason for that is because your 2 hour is deep enough into negative territory. This signal does like to rotate that up, but we could reject and turn right back down. And I think earnings is going to be interesting this year. I don't want to say bad things can happen with earnings, because it's literally just a 50-50 flip. So I'd be paying attention to that. But just so you notice, for Meta, we are below that 5. And if we can bounce above it, if we ever lose that again, you're most likely going to continue the trend, take out this low, go make a new one. And the key thing here is we talked about reacting to a lower level to make a cup. We've reacted to that lower level to make a cup. are we going to make some kind of handle and then see that turn back down as this MACD goes positive? Maybe it just turns back down into negative territory. Those are all things you just need to be aware of for Meta, but it's nice to see that that thing we were paying attention to ended up happening, and so we really shouldn't be taken off guard that the market's deciding to go higher here. AMC, pretty simple. Turn down on the 30 minutes so you know right away, not the moment. And we're using that 437 level that we marked off a long time ago as some resistance at this point. We tried to break through at some point in the day and slam down. So you need this 30-minute to turn back up in order to have a chance for this one. Same thing is going to go for GME. GME turning down on a 2-hour. So something we're going to look for from GME is going to be, can it create a 2-hour divergence? Can it create that weakness in momentum and turn back around, giving us some kind of buy signal? Those are going to be the only real things I want to pay attention to for AMC and GME at this moment. And if you click back to AMC, you can see the red line. That's going to be your level you need to break through. For GME right here, it is 22.53 to see something crazy this week. But most likely that does lead into another week, right? When the big moment happens, they usually clamp down on this thing if they can control it by Friday. The times where it's usually going to pop off are probably going to be, you know, early Monday or something like that. So just pay attention as we might make some reversal signals here for GameStop. All right, so first I wanted to talk about the dollar up almost 0.5% as we talk about it here. We found the basing out signals at these lows, then we found the basing signals down here at these lows and said, hey, why is the dollar about to pop off? And are we going to see it as a trap? So we paid attention to a time in the past. There was a time in the past, if you want to go look at it, it was May 30th. If you look at the closing live stream of May 30th, and if you want to look before then, we were talking about the fact that there was a ton of rigged behavior, right? There was a time where the dollar was going actually down while the market was going down, and we were just saying, hey, XLU is actually turning around, and we're kind of following that. So weirdly enough, you could see some kind of rigged move at the end of the day, and we kept saying that, and then at the end of the day, the SPY was down about 8 points. It was outside of a weekly expected move, I think, and then it just turned out of nowhere, and I think it was only 15 minutes worth of price action. I think it was 15 minutes, and it had bought itself back up 10 to 12 points. Okay, so that's how these traps really work. And we talked about that back then, and we just said, because that's when we really started to show people how to do it, how to pay attention to these things. And we said, now these traps can happen on a 30-minute chart. They can happen on a 2-hour chart. They can happen on a weekly chart. And what are you seeing here? At this moment, you are seeing a weekly trap. This is one of the biggest traps you can probably ever see. And it definitely is a trap at this point, like it is. Even if we keep going higher, this dollar looks like it's just going to keep going. So I don't know how long this trap will last. We're just going to keep paying attention to the reversal signals when we see them. Today was a good day to pay attention, but we're looking like we're curling back up into positive territory. So not the moment, right? Manage the trade. But I just wanted to show you how the dollar is screaming higher even as this is going up. The dollar continues to squeeze higher as the market continues to turn up into positive territory. And that's going to be a key thing to understand. When this does take over, when the selling does hit the tape, it's going to get ugly. The longer that this takes to react, right, the more the dollar goes up while the market goes up, the bigger the drop I think we do experience in the market when that actually comes to fruition. So that's going to be important to understand. Now, volatility on the weekly has not crossed over. That's going to be a major squeeze signal. But the daily here, we did react down to the 50. Remember, we're still saying if we're going to get some kind of squeeze, some kind of mini squeeze down to the 200, well, then we're going to have to cross through this 50, right? And then if we cross the 50, we can actually see the full-on squeeze, which will most likely be rotating over the weekly chart. So if that weekly chart does rotate down, we could see a bigger squeeze. But for the time being, the dollar is reacting so interesting that I want to see if there's reversal signals in here. And that's the thing. The 30-minute here, we talked about this in the video last night. We talked about it this morning. Hey, Luke, will the market crash if that crosses over? It says, hey, there's potential to crash. We don't have to make a reversal signal for the volatility for VIX and the SPY at the same time. But usually when I see both at the same time, I'm more confident. So I said, hey, this could be a pop-up that then drops to make a 30-minute divergence. Even a 2-hour divergence at this point for volatility can pop up, and 2-hour divergences like to cross up the daily chart. So we could see volatility drop off for one more day, see some kind of reversal signal, and if we see something at the same time as the SPY, we will be notifying you on this channel. We'll be looking at it live for what to look at, right? See if these things pop up at the same time. time, that's when you really want to react. So this is just telling us that we might have bought ourselves a little bit of time. But what if that little bit of time is only another day? I do not believe that they can keep this difference from if the dollar going up and the market going up. I don't think that they can hold it much longer. I've never seen it this bad before. And that just tells me, I think they're really, really rigging this thing up. And then people are going to be caught completely off guard, So do not be one of the people who are taken completely off guard. If you see a little volatility signal like this, and we see a 2-hour divergence down here, and we see a 2-hour divergence on the SPY at the same time, we need to be paying attention, because this is going to be a massive move down, in my opinion. And I think it's going to take everyone off guard. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. But this is what we're going to have to pay attention to. Okay, notice we were talking about the divergence for volatility. This is going to be the main takeaway. If volatility does spike down on that 2-hour and the SPY spikes up on that 2-hour and then reverses, you will have the signals at the exact same time. Okay, you will have these signals at the exact same time. What this is leading into for me is I believe we might only have a couple days left until this thing starts to tear down. Now, I can be wrong, but that's perfectly fine, because as things continue to curl up, I'm not really looking for a downward play unless I see a signal. And that's key to understand. That's something we talk about in the course. Wait for confirmations. You will get a plenty good price. People are starting to run to the call side in the mornings, and now we're seeing people start to run to the put side. So that means we can squeeze those people for a moment. The market maker probably wants those people to flip, and then we're going to see this thing tear down. So we're still paying attention to it. Not saying this has to crash down in the next couple of days. All I'm saying is I'm going to pay attention every time I see a signal at the same time on volatility that I see in the opposite direction on the SPY. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. Really do appreciate it. Liking, doing all that stuff. You guys are great. I hope you guys have a fantastic night, and I will be here tomorrow morning to watch some stocks with you guys. All right. Peace.